Oh, no.
Well, when I first time did an evaluation, it would have been something like, she was amazing. Her speech was awesome. Everything was fantastic. And her eye contact was great. And her body language was good. And then I would go blank because all the good words that I knew I've used. And I didn't know what else to say. Is anybody here does evaluations, by the way? Can we see hands? Yes, we do. Have we been in such situation where we struggle to find flaws or improvements in whatever people have just spoken about? Yes? Yeah, in the contest. Regardless of if the person has aced it, we struggle. If the person has bombed it, we still struggle because we have to be empathetic to them when we are giving feedback. And if the person is like outrightly boring, we still struggle to evaluate. So in today's session, I've come back to you with some tricks and some sort of frameworks which will help you evaluate better when you're giving some feedback to a speaker. So I'll share my screen now. There's not a lot of PowerPoint, so I promise I won't kill you by PowerPoints. But I do have some mind maps. Now let me see if I can play them. Where's the device gone? Farah, where's the device? It's here. Okay. No, that's not the one. So where's the pointer? I had it. Oh, it's here, sorry. My fault. Yeah, that's fine. So the first thing is when you're doing an evaluation, stay prepared. And I was not. I took the pointer and kept it at my desk and didn't realize where I kept it. So in today's workshop, I will just show you a little bit of agenda. What are we going to talk about? First of all, we'll touch upon why do we evaluate speeches? What's the need? And then I'll talk to you about a framework, that what exactly are we evaluating? Then I'll talk about some guidelines if you are here for a Toastmaster speech competition, what Toastmasters say, how one should evaluate their speeches. So that we'll talk about in this particular section of guidelines. And then we'll touch upon the structure to how do you structure your speech when you're giving an evaluation. Finally, we'll touch upon some top tips, what can make your evaluation even better. So let's start. Okay, come on. Why do we evaluate? Why do we evaluate? Just like evaluate anything, not speech, but anything.
That's improve.
To improve. Anything else? Yeah, we're still thinking in the speech context. But if you look at it, we evaluate every single day, every single thing that we see. You go, your trains are late, you will start evaluating the TFL. If the weather is not nice, you will start evaluating maybe God, right? If you had some discussion with your partner of your food is not in certain way that you wanted it to be, you start evaluating the process. So actually, evaluation is in our DNA. We all know it, right? And we do it not always to add value. Sometimes we just love criticizing things. Sometimes we want things to become better so that we can use whatever it is. It could be a product, it could be a speech, it could be a behavior of somebody which we want to improve. And we have this, like, partners do evaluate each other, I don't know, 10 times in a day or something like that. So it's in our DNA, it's nothing new. If you're here to learn evaluation, I think you already know it. Are we done with the speech? But why we are here? We have two different kind of evaluations. Either it's a normal speech in Toastmaster context now. When somebody has given a speech, you will tell them what they did well, what they can improve on, etc., etc. Whether it is an evaluation speech contest, or it's just a normal evaluation, the purpose of me as an evaluator is to add value, right? To add value, even in the contest. Because sometimes in contest, we're like so focused on winning, yes? And then we are a little bit distracted from our core purpose. So if we go, same applies to a normal speech, not the evaluation contest, but normal speech contest. We need to keep our first goal to add value to people's life. And at the end of your speech or at the end of your evaluation, if you had given something that is useful for one person out of 30 or 40 sitting there, you're a success. So our main goal should be to add value. And how do you add value? How do you do all of it? Remember one thing. Every time now I'm moving from normal speech to an evaluation speech. Evaluation speech, there is a different guideline for Toastmasters, how it should be, what the kind of things you should add in it. But at the end of the day, it is also a speech. You're actually telling something. It's just that you've got the material yourself. You don't have to prepare. Somebody gave something, they shared an idea or shared a product or whatever. So you have a lot of material. You just have to pick few things from it, tell people why it is good, why it can be, how it can be improved. So your evaluation is a speech. And when you are giving a speech, especially about evaluating somebody, keep in mind to exhibit those things that you are telling others to do. So if I'm evaluating a speech and I'm telling them they should have a good vocal variety when they're talking about excitement, versus when I say, oh, when they're excited, they should show the excitement, shouldn't they? So even though I'm giving an evaluation, I still need to think whether I am following the rules which I'm telling others, like practicing what I'm preaching, really. That's another component of me being an evaluator. I have to behave as a speaker. And as a speaker, I have to look into everything that a normal speech should have. It should have a structure. It should have a hook. It should have an ending. It should have a good summary. It should have the point 1, point 2, point 3, make your point, another point, make a point. The normal speech structure. And everything that goes into a speech should go into your speech as an evaluator also. So consider your evaluation as a speech. So what I did is I thought about how one can be better at evaluating things. Because sometimes what happens is you kind of liked somebody's stage presence. You like them moving around on purpose, and you just say that, oh, that's really, really nice. Or you just liked somebody's usage of words. So look at what kind of fancy posh words this person is using, right? And then you will have a list of like 4 or 5 different things. Now you don't know which one I should pick. Because if you, let's say, have 10 points you've identified about the person, which is too much, but if you have, then you might struggle. How will I put all those 10 points together to give the person something that will help them improve in future? So what I did then, I created a sort of framework which has around as many words, as many letters we have in the word evaluate. So I'll show you what exactly it looks like. So I have put together 9 different areas where you can look at a speech and give some feedback about it. And those 9 areas are engagement, expression, or vocal variety, or audience connection, logical structure, use of language, authenticity, timing, and evidence and example. So what I'll do now is I'll take you through each of those. And the purpose of showing them is to, when you're evaluating somebody, you need to find 1, 2, or 3 things and focus on that. Now, what people generally struggle with is they know there is something good about this person, but I don't know how to say it. How do I tell him? And how do I tell everybody else so that everybody else also learns something from it? And that is the struggle. So what I've tried with this is I'll give you like 3 examples of in each of these. And don't ask me why 3, because you know it. And then I'll tell you how to, let's take the first example and then it'll become more clear. So we're talking about engagement. When you're looking at engagement, so I'll give you a sheet. I have it here. I'll show you at the end of it. So in sheet, I put all of them here. And at the top, I put the speech evaluation guideline from Toastmasters. And what I want people to, to choose something from this evaluate framework. Let's say you listening to the person and you have this table, you just taking things. Oh, this person has said something nice here. So I think it comes into this category. So you select that category and then you just keep doing it while they're speaking. And then when you sit in the room, you have to kind of summarize it and I'll tell you how to do that also. So let's talk about the engagement and expression. How people are engaging with you. So there are a few things that you have to see. If you say that, oh, it was a very good engagement, I liked it. What do you mean? So there are a few things that you can look for. There are many, more than 3, but I've just put 3 important ones. So let's say relevance is one thing. When I'm talking about engagement of a speaker, I will talk about the relevance of the subject. For example, I'm giving an evaluation workshop here. People here are interested in learning more about evaluations. So I have the right relevance of the subject. When you're giving an evaluation and you are telling that the person had a really good relevant topic to everybody, you can add more color to it. So you can tell them that relevance is very important in order to have a successful session. Because if you talk about something which people can't understand. Let's say if somebody started talking about quantum computing to people who have no idea about, people who are interested in science, art, and painting, they probably will feel a disconnect. So it's not really relevant for them. And those are the kind of things, when you are telling everybody, you take those examples and tell them why relevance is important. Storytelling and connection. And now let's say you are talking about, oh, this person was really a good storyteller. Now, what does it mean? How does it matter if it is a good storyteller? Then you go deep into storytelling. What is storytelling? It's like we convey messages via storytelling. Not from today, not 10 years ago, but hundreds and thousands of years, ever since the humans are, like, I don't know how old are humans, 4,000, 5,000 years old, something like that, maybe more, I don't know. But we have been talking and learning things. Even before the papers and printing press and those were there, how you were communicating? Using the stories. So those are the kind of things you add when you're telling that storytelling is so important. And you can tell people that when I'm telling something, some story to somebody, I'm actually taking them with me to have that journey which I had, which I'm telling you in my speech. But with the usage of stories, I want you to be with me and experience the same thing that I have experienced. And that's why storytelling is so important. Because if we are together, we will get the message clearer. We'll get the message easily because it's coming with some anecdotes. So these are kind of things I can add when I'm talking about storytelling. Huh? And then when we're talking about nonverbal, I gave you another example of nonverbal, why nonverbal is so important. One thing you can say is very easy, is very good body language, right? Now, the other way of saying the same thing is to go deep into that body language. Why is it important? Because the reason is I want people to go deep into one thing is because rather than giving 5 recommendations to people and don't talk about them, it's better to give them 1 or 2 recommendations and tell people in a way so that they remember it even after they've left the room and even after a week. So when we're talking about, let's say, nonverbal, I can say that it's a good body language, your hands are moving, etc., etc. But if I go behind the psychology of why nonverbal is so important, if I go and find out some evidence, some researches, now this comes to your homework, right? How much when I say master some of these out of those 9 evaluate thing, you need to go and do some research on that topic. And if you have known a lot about something, I tell you, your evaluation speech is already ready. You don't have to worry about preparing it, because you can always mold the speaker's feedback into what you know, right? So it has to be one of these things. It might be their evaluation, it might be their nonverbal was good, or was their usage of word was good, body language or whatever, eye contact, da, 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 da. All you have to do is to know a lot of information about that thing, so that when you are giving feedback, you just pick 1 or 2 instances from the speech and then add it to the knowledge that you already have. All right. So to give you an example, nonverbal body language, right? And let's say somebody who came to stage and he was talking about this, using hands, showing you something, using their hands out. So if you know about it, again, I said do a lot of research and learn about the body language, right? So let's say I know something about body language. When I'm opening up my hands, I'm actually sharing my vulnerabilities with you subconsciously. We don't know it, we don't say it, but it is happening, and I'll tell you why. Because in the human evolution, your stomach has the most vital organs. So if anything happens, even before your frontal lobe was developed, which is the modern brain, you had the brain at the back, which is called your fight or flight response, which we still have it. So anything that, let's say if a loud noise happens here, I'll go like this, right? Yes, and children do that. Everybody does it. So something sudden happens, you just go like this, because what you're doing is, and animals, because everybody has that brain, reptile brain, because we all were reptiles before, right? And animals, you just go and do this, and if there's a dog sitting, you just go, because they will protect their vital organs. That's the instinct, right? And when I am sharing my vital organs, like, I know you're not going to kick me, but subconsciously, research has been done on this area, and they have identified when somebody's talking like this versus somebody's talking like this. So let's say if I'm standing here and keeping my hands behind me, after 5 minutes of talk, you will have certain judgment about me. Either it would be this person looks a little bit arrogant, I don't know why, or you will think, does he have anything in his hands which he's going to show to us? Or you'll start thinking about what is going on behind, because that will make you so curious, right? So that's another example of how you can go deep into one topic of body language. So there are so many nuances of how does your action, what kind of chemical reaction it does in the people listening and watching you, right? So you can add that much of content into just reviewing the body language of the person. Then you can see, that if that person did a lot of these kind of gestures, then you can tell everybody why you should do this kind of gesture. right? Because this is how we have been. This is coming from our reptile brain, which is very unconscious. Yes? So all I did is, there was some knowledge that I previously had. I just picked on something from the person who spoke, linked them together, and shared with everybody. And people will remember it. Because I told you why we do this. I used some body language to explain that idea to you, right? So that's an example of how you can go deep onto nonverbal. So when you're talking about engagement, so this is one of the area that you have to evaluate on. You can go into these three things, right? We can talk about storytelling. We can have like another 3-hour workshop on storytelling. What does storytelling do? What is the psychology when we are sharing some story? What is happening in people's brain? Do you know there is an idea called neural linking? Do you know? Anybody knows neural linking? No? So what happens is, there was a research done, and what they did, they had the speaker, and they had some people sitting in the audience, and they put electrodes on everybody's head. And everybody's connected to computers, right? In MRIs and fMRIs, there are two things they did, MRI and fMRI. And it's a very recent research in, I think, 2004 or 5 or something. I mean, I can give you the details if you want. But in that research, what they did, when the speaker was telling a story, there are certain area of your brain which is getting more active in that story. In the first few minutes, there was a massive disconnect in those areas on the computer screen between the speaker and the audience. But as the speech progressed, they found the same part of the brain is getting activated. This is fascinating. You can see the images also. Like this is the speaker's brain and this is the audience brain. And when they were kind of connecting using stories, you could see that there is a really good brain connection happening here. And that is why we should always use stories, because people can connect with that. People can have those kind of experiences and they can connect with their experiences. So they are with you now. They're thinking exactly the way you are thinking. That's the beauty about having stories in your speech. So this is another example of how you can go deep onto storytelling. If let's say your speaker has shared something which you liked, maybe they've shared 2 stories, 10 seconds each. The story could be 10 seconds or it could be 5 minutes long. It doesn't matter, right? So whatever they've shared, you can just go deep onto that and explain why this particular thing is important. So that's your engagement part. Now we look into the next one, which is vocal variety. We've spoken a lot about vocal variety already. But there is a difference between a variety and clarity and emotional conveyance. So these 3 things I wanted to touch upon. When I'm talking about variety, it's like, again, I will tell you 1 or 2 things to how do you go deep into these subjects. When I'm talking about vocal variety, and I'm saying that, okay, you speak louder when you are saying something loud, or you go gentle when you're sharing some emotional story with somebody. If you're talking about some pain that you had, so you show that pain into your brain. Because what happens in your brain, there is something called cognitive dissonance. Anybody has heard of this? Yes? That happens when what you see and what you hear is not aligned. There has been an experiment. Now, people have asked on stage, I don't know if I ask you, just take your hand. Take your hand, everybody, please. Can we? Yeah? Yeah? On the count of 3. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Touch it to your chin. Look around. Look around. That's not my chin. But a lot of people touched the fist to the cheek. You know why? Because your brain will always give precedence to what they see versus what they hear. So if your body movement and your message is not aligned, people get into cognitive dissonance. They wouldn't understand what's going on. Yeah? And I just showed you. There's half of the people had their hands here, because I showed it here. Yes? So that's another way of telling you why variety in your speech is important. Yes? If I just say that, oh, I had a very good vocal variety, he was excited when things were excited. But if I tell you with this example by doing the same practical that we just did, I think you will remember this exercise we just did 2 minutes ago. You will probably try it at your family members, right? Yes? So that's the kind of way of conveying the same simple thing. Vocal variety. Yeah, good vocal variety. Why good vocal variety? That's why. Why you should have it? That's why. And that's why it makes your speech more interesting. Clarity, pauses. Why are they important? Your voice should be clear enough. Because when your voice is clear, your vocal cords are open. And your message is coming right from your heart. Versus if I'm fumbling and I'm not sure what exactly was the last word I have to say, half the people can't hear me, right? And those who can hear me will think that, this speaker has so less confidence. He probably doesn't know what he's talking about. So clarity in your voice is very important because it connects you with the people. Pauses. So some people will come and say, great usage of pauses. He made people to think about what he just said, and it was a good use of pauses. No, I can't even say the word pauses, right? Instead of that, if you have to add some spice to it, we say that, okay, like pauses, people think whatever has been just said, but it's not always true. I might have some different purpose. So when I paused, you don't always think about what I've just said. Your brain might have gone somewhere else with the thing that I said. So you're not really trying to create a response to my last statement when I gave a pause. It might be that I just want you to feel something. You know what? When I was around 12 or 13 years old, I had an accident. And there was a motorbike, hit my bicycle. And those people who saw it, they tell me that I was at least 6 to 8 feet high in the sky. And from there, I fell. And I had a near-death experience. Now, when I stopped after telling you that I had a near-death experience, some of you might have started thinking what it could be, what he could have felt at that point. So it's not just I'm making you space to think about something, I'm making you feel. I'm again making you connect with me, right? So that's how we can go deep into just pause, right? Good use of pause. Yes, very good use of pause, but that's how you do it. And another thing I can say, you know what? Pauses make people uncomfortable. Some of you are thinking you forgot what you had to say. And majority of people want the speaker to succeed. There has been so much research. People who are listening to me or to a speaker want them to do well, right? And if the person is forgetting something, everybody's like, oh, what is it? I can't remember, right? So it makes people uncomfortable. If you want to create that kind of feeling in people for whatever is your speech topic is, you can use pauses. It's amazing too. See, we have just spoken so much about pauses, correct? So that's the idea. That's how you kind of go deep into this emotional conveyance. So every time I'm sharing some feeling, am I changing my voice according to what I'm saying? Excitement. Am I showing excitement? So that people will also feel, right? I got this lottery, man, and I got every number of euro jackpot. You know that? And I was so jumping with excitement, I even gave a party to my friends. And then I realized the ticket was 2 weeks ago, old ticket. Right? So if I have to tell you some story like that, and I'm saying that, oh, I was so excited and stuff, and if I'm showing you that excitement, then you will get excited too. You're like, oh, what is he doing here when he got a jackpot? Right? He shouldn't be here. So I created some curiosity in your minds, and at the same time, I showed you that I conveyed my emotions with you by using my vocal writing. So that's why V for vocal delivery is so important. Audience connection. Now, there are many ways to do the audience connection. Eye contact is one engagement technique, like asking questions. And then you have similarities with audience. So these 3 points I wanted to connect on. Eye contact, a lot of people will say, oh, there's a very good eye contact. But how about I go and say, I have to ace my eye contact, and I have to look at one person so that my eye contact is really good. And that one person, whoever it is right now, has already moved away. They've stopped looking at me. But let's say if I pick somebody else and I start talking to them, and I will talk to only them until they get so embarrassed that they either get up and leave the room, or I get so uncomfortable that I have to move my face away from them. So what exactly is the equation of eye contact? How much is good, right? So if you're telling about a speaker, say that they had a great eye contact, then tell also what was great about it. Let's say they said one sentence, looking at one person, then they moved because they're using a different idea. Then they moved to another person sharing different idea, to another person sharing different idea. So by doing that, they actually scanned the whole room. So they had connection with everybody, but nobody felt uncomfortable. They didn't put anybody into a difficult situation. It's like, why is he looking at me? Correct? So that's how you can talk about eye contact. Questions. We ask questions, right? Why questions are important? They make you think. If I ask you, have you been in a situation? Your brain is faster than the speed of light. It will go wherever you want it to go, right? The light can only go 3. What's the speed of light? Anybody know speed of light? Second. Per second, right? It's 300,000 kilometers per second. That's the speed of light. With that speed, if you have to go to the end of our galaxy, it will take around 4 to 5 years. Yeah? But with your brain, with your thoughts, you can go there just now, within a second. So your speed of your thoughts is faster than the speed of light. Now, why did I ask you this question? Why did I ask you what's the speed of light really? I just wanted to make some point. And I wanted people to engage with me while I'm making that point. Somebody who knew about the speed of light, they said, oh yeah, it's that much, right? Those who didn't know, they now know it. Great. And we know something else. There is something faster than the speed of light too, right? So that's the kind of engagement techniques using questions. And then you have similarity with audience members. Like here, everybody is a speaker. So there is a lot to find, a lot similar we can find. You know, what kind of challenges we as a speaker face, or how did we improve on a particular thing. So there's a lot of similarity. Or let's say if somebody is giving a speech about their experience when they had gone into depression. They said, like, I had depression for 2 years. Now I'm okay. So data says, we are sitting in Data Science Speakers Club, data says that around 30 to 40% people in this country have taken antidepressants and seen their GP. And with that data, I know for sure almost the 30% of this crowd could be, if that's a sample size is enough, right? It might be 10, it might be 20, it might be 60, I don't know. But there is a possibility. So when I'm talking about that kind of experience, I'm sharing some similarities with the audience. So if somebody has given a speech about depression, then you can say that, okay, this person has spoken about something that is so prevalent, I don't know the word, which is so much out there, right? So it's like they are creating connection using the similarity. So that's the kind of another thing. So you have audience connection, and then you have like structure. You can talk about logical. So you got the idea, right? How do you go into the deep side of whatever we are trying to convey? In the structure, we all know, like, this is very easy. Toastmasters, we know why structure is important, because it helps you not getting lost. If I tell you 10 things and in a random order, chances are that you'll forget all of them. But if I create a structure, i.e. I create a story, and I take you from one point, I take you from one place, make one point, take you to another place, make another point, take you to another place, make my third point, then chances are that you will remember it because I gave a structure to whatever message I was conveying. That's why the structures are so different. And then when you do more research about it, as I said again, if you master 5 of these things I'm telling you, just go on internet and read as much possible about that thing. Just go to ChatGPT and say, what happens in human brain when somebody is telling stories to somebody else? Yeah, we've got ChatGPT, man, this is amazing. Use it. It'll tell you what happens, and it'll tell you, and then ask him, how can you say that? Then it'll tell you that there was a research done on it. Then you ask, can you tell who did the research when it was done? It will tell you that too. Then you'll ask him, can you give me the link? And it'll say, no, I can't. But you have Google for that, right? So that's how you kind of collect information. And once you have got so much of ammunition behind you, you can evaluate any speech, because you know that you only have to evaluate 3 points. And it is so easy. If you already know what you're going to talk about, even in the table topics, you come prepared, you have some ideas. And now whatever they ask, you just link that thing to your idea. So I'll give you an example. Somebody gave me a table topic of what is bad luck, right? It's like, I haven't got a clue what is bad luck. But I recently read something, and I thought I can use that in a speech. So what that was is, in 1994, so this is how my table topic started, and I got the best table topic of the day. So my speech was like, in 1994, there was a movie got released, which was Shawshank Redemption. It's one of the best movie at the moment. But tell you what, there's something important, because that movie didn't receive a single award. You know why? Because in year 1994, there were 7 other movies got released. Forrest Gump, which won all the awards. Then you had Lion King. Then you had a movie called Speed. And then you had a movie called, forgetting the name, but we have like 5 or 6 movies released in the same year. This particular movie didn't get a single award in Oscars. Today, that movie is number 2 in IMDb list of the best movies to watch in your life. That's bad luck, because you were at the wrong time, at the wrong place. That is luck, right? So I just put this together. I just read the story somewhere, and this question came up. I just linked them, and it kind of created something really nice. So people came to know, 1994 was horrendous year for movies, really, because there are so many movies came up. Some of you probably will go to Wikipedia and see, what else other movies got released in 1994, but you got the point, right? That's how, if you prepare them beforehand, it's very easy to link it whatever the person has said. Use of language, word choice, what the kind of words people are using. Rhetorical devices, oh my God, you can talk so much about it. There's a guy called Simon Lancaster who has aced rhetorical devices. You probably know him, he's in the UK, he's UK based. He's a person who writes speeches for the politicians. Yeah, politicians also get evaluations, by the way. They rehearse their speeches. Just yesterday, I heard an interview of a prime minister who said, I wrote a speech I had to give in White House, and I had to rehearse it, and I had to rehearse it 5 times before I gave it in White House. And this is a head of state talking. Ask me the name later, because there is some controversy to the name of the person. But yeah, rhetorical devices. What's one of the most popular rhetorical device? Anybody can tell me?
Power of 3.
Power of 3. And what else? There's something that starts with M. What is it? Metaphors. Metaphors. Right? Use of metaphors. Use of similes. Those kind of things, right? So when we've heard somebody saying that, oh man, that sound was so loud as if some atom bomb has exploded, right? You just write it in your sheet. Well, this guy spoke about atom bomb, and he compared that with the sound that he had. So he's used something different. It's called a rhetoric device. Then you go into whatever you know about rhetoric devices, right? So he said something, you built upon it, and you shared with everybody what's good about it. Yeah, that's how you make it. And by the way, on a separate note, tone consistency, variability, we've spoken about it. Authenticity and emotion, very important. I won't go much into the detail because of the time constraints, but oh yeah. But before I go on an authenticity thing, right? I'll tell you, you can pretend authenticity, and how can you do that? I'll tell you, and I just did an example of it. I know a lot about rhetoric devices. What are the chances that I forgot what is that one word which starts with M? No chance. I will remember what is a metaphor. But I pretended, just to prove a point, that when I am showing my vulnerability, this is like pretend vulnerability. I didn't have it, but I still made it up, right? Some people, I've seen somebody saying that, you know, what's the movie where this hero and the heroine, they're on the ship, and they kind of stand on the ship like this, and there's a wind coming. Oh, what's that movie, man? That ship goes into the sea. What is that movie name? Anybody? Oh, you got a point, right? So a lot of speakers do that. They know the thing, but they just pretend it to just create a connection. They want people to go with them. So authenticity is very important, but you have to be very careful with authenticity, because if you are authentic but you are not, if you're not respecting what other people might think about what you being authentic, then you might be careless, right? So you have to find out, as I said in the previous section, that you need to understand who your audience members are, and then you share and be authentic. Vulnerability and honesty, same thing. You're just sharing what you. I mean, like I can never say the word vulnerability. Any word which has this L in it, like world, vulnerability. My tongue just doesn't catch it. So I share this vulnerability that I have about saying the word itself.
Are you pretending?
Presenting what?
Are you pretending?
No, I'm not pretending. This time I'm real. True. I can say it sometimes, but if I'm in flow and talking, world and vulnerability, sometimes they don't get quite correct. But yeah, that's about authenticity and emotion. And then we're talking about timing and pace. So when you're judging somebody, you should not be judging them if they took longer than the time allocated. That's not your role. That's somebody else is doing that. It's a timer for it. But you can always judge them based on how much time did they take in a particular area. So like somebody says introduction for, I don't know, maybe 70 words or 100 words. And then they have the whole body, which is maybe smaller. And then the conclusion is very large. So you can tell them, how much time they should allocate to each of the section. Because your hook, your intro is just a hook. It's a starting point where you're just kind of bringing people with you, making them ready. Doesn't need much time. So those kind of things you can monitor. What is the pacing? Were they faster were they slow in the start? And you will see that because the time is not enough for my workshop. So I will speed up now to finish it. And these kind of things you can monitor in a speaker. That they started very fine, but when they realized that the card has been shown and they started running, right? So the pacing differed. So every time, that's why I say, hey, go and do practice. You know at least how much time each section is taking when you're talking, right? So that's about timing and pacing. You can go in the time balance between the sections, engaging pace, well-timed transitions. Like when you're changing from one, so say, okay, this is my first commendation is this, my second is this. You don't have to say that. You just start with the content. You say that body language was this. But there was one more thing I realized, that when they used your voice, now the people who are listening, they'll already know that he has changed from the body language to vocal variety now. I don't have to say that my second commendation is this or my third. You can say that, but you don't have time. It's only 3 minutes. So you have to make the best use of those 3 minutes. If you say like, oh, the person has given a great speech, and thank you very much, and thank you for me being here, 10 seconds gone. Yeah, so the time is very important. And a final thing in your evaluate, I'll give you these sheets also, so you can see that evidence and examples. So how many examples people have used? If they have told you a scientific fact, did they talk about where they took it from? So that will tell people that, oh, this person has done good research. He knows what is he talking about. right? So that's where, so if somebody is giving you some example from their life, or let's say they're talking about somebody else, but they're telling you that they're talking about somebody else, right? So it might be about Steve Jobs. Like when Steve Jobs gave his speech, his speech was like one of the best example of how a structured speech can be. And he concluded that with his 3 points that he wanted people to ponder about, which was first time when he left his job, he told people how did he feel. And this was the Stanford speech that Steve Jobs gave, very famous speech. And then he told when he was fired from Apple, and then he told when he was diagnosed with cancer. And then from these 3 things, he came to a conclusion and he said, stay hungry, stay foolish. That was his message. That was his conclusion. So what I'm doing now, I'm giving an example, but I'm telling you, I'm not just saying that, okay, you should have these 3 things here and here, here. I'm actually telling you that great people have done it. They have followed this pattern, and their speeches have been like known by people. I can talk about Martin Luther King. He doesn't come and says on the stage, I have a dream. No, he builds it. So he comes with a hook. Then he tells you a few things. I want the white people from this country, this state, with the black people from this state sitting at the same table eating the dinner. I want this white and this black doing this thing together. I have a dream, right? So he kind of picks it up. He makes it. And that is what, if you find in somebody's speech a progression like this, you can link it with these kind of examples. Like, the great stories, great speeches are the ones who have used this pattern, the pattern that just now this person has used, right? So it's kind of so much encouraging for that person, and everybody else will know that, oh, this is the great piece of advice. So that's where your evidence and examples. So very quickly, now I will go to that was the main part of my speech, which I've spoken about. So that's your elevate for you, and I'll give you the elevate thing. These slides I'll share. Guidelines is nothing but the ballot paper of Toastmasters. So they say analytic qualities have 40 marks. In that they say it should be clear and focused. Recommendation is 30 marks. In that they say it should be positive, specific, and helpful. I'll summarize all of this. And the third one is about technique. How do you deliver it? Sympathetic, sensitive, motivational. And then the final one is a summation. How do you sum it? So when they're talking about analytic qualities, what they're talking about is, did you capture the good points and the not so good points correctly? And did you put a structure behind it? They're checking your analytical abilities. Did you analyze the speech really? So when somebody who's a judge is sitting, they are looking at this. They will say, oh, did he do that? Was he clear enough that he's giving recommendation 1, 2, 3? Whether or not telling this is my first, second, or third, but was it still clear? Was the analysis good enough? That's what they're looking for. How good were recommendations? Were they given in a positive context? Made the person more encouraged and inspired? Versus it was too much of criticism. That kind of thing, right? So that's what you're looking. So what you're doing is you are linking this with the. So I'll show you how I'm linking these things together. So this is my elevate. You can see that the thing that I've just gone through, right? And when you're looking at the guidelines, your clear focus, that is your speech structure, which I've already spoken about, but I've put a separate note for it. But when you're talking about recommendation, positive, specific, helpful, you're actually using this framework, right? So you're telling people how you can be positive, specific, and helpful by using this evaluate framework. And when you're talking about analytic qualities, we've already talked about the speech structure, which is here. So you have a hook. So you start, how do you use a hook? You pick up something from the speaker. If the speaker has spoken about, I don't know, maybe love, then you tell some small anecdote about love or something funny about love. Or if they have given you some quote at the end, you start with that quote which they have given you, right? Something like that. So you just need a hook to start with. It could be just be authentic in when you're telling introduction, and you just tell that this is how the speech is going to look like. I'm going to help them by telling them 2 or 3 things that they did really well and 2 things that they can improve on. So this is a pretty much very standard structure of normal Toastmasters speeches, and this structure goes very well with this analytical qualities of the ballot paper, right? So that's pretty much it. And there are some top tips that I've put together. There could be many, but master 3 to 5 things from this evaluate. You don't have to know everything. You just master 3, let's say 5. That's it, good enough. You can evaluate any speech. Just link it to what you know, right? And then mention specific points being evaluated. That is like when you are talking about body language, pick up which part of what they did was relevant to my evaluation. So make sure that you make a note that they did something, and you just write it in 2 or 3 words that they talked about a particular story. And then you link that when you're giving your feedback. Know how to use notes. You really don't need to use notes with these kind of frameworks. If you have your frameworks ready, you already know that you have to talk about the body language. You have to talk about how they use the stage, or you have to talk about the vocal variety that they had. And you know a lot about those topics. You just have to pick those 3 things up, and you just come here without using any notes. You can smash it, right? Don't criticize, don't judge, because there are judges who are doing that. And talk to everyone. these are normal standard advice. Don't just say that, oh, Farah, you did this really great. No, I said, Farah did this thing really great, but if she adds something like this, that'll be awesome, right? Something like that, so that everybody will not feel neglected. Inspire the speaker, bring out the value delivered. That means whatever speech they have given, they also wanted to give some value to their audience, right? You as an evaluator, it's your duty to bring that value one more time and tell the audience member that, oh, this is what the message this speech had, which was a great message, wasn't it? I think this is it. If you have any question, and I think we're done with the time. Are we, timer, sir? Yes? Okay, so yeah. So with that, what I'll do is I have few of these sheets. These sheets are nothing but I can share with online guys also if somebody wants to take part, but maybe you can try to use it. I've put some notes, so about 4 printouts of it. Whoever is doing the evaluation can see it, and then they can write their notes on this when they do the evaluations. Yeah? Good. Any more questions?
If one does a brilliant speech, one might win a Toastmaster speech. But 99.999% speeches have nothing to do with Toastmasters or contests. Toastmasters wrong. So if you were doing the talk you've just given to an audience, maybe they're political speakers or speechwriters, nothing to do with Toastmasters, is anything you'd change slightly? Or is this geared slightly towards Toastmasters, or in fact it's generic?
Actually, what I've told you just now is very generic. And that's the reason you would realize that I have spent very little time on this guideline part, where you have like Toastmaster things. Because you are all Toastmasters, and many of you are taking part in the evaluation contests. So I have to link it. But the evaluate framework that I've told you, that is very generic. You can use it in any speech. And stories, we can have another session of how to ace your... So I've done a workshop, which is how to find a speech topic when you have nothing to talk about, and talk on it for 30 minutes. So I created a workshop and delivered it some time ago. And we actually did a practical. So like we just picked up somebody and said, okay, fine. Huh?
On the day.
On the day, yes. And we picked up somebody, what is going in your mind? And they just said something. We created a story of 7-minute speech out of nowhere. So that was although given in a different Toastmaster club, but you can use it anywhere. It doesn't have to be Toastmasters. So yes, it's very generic. Storytelling is very generic. All the popular stories that you know, they are stories. All the popular speeches that you know, they are stories. Any other question? Yeah, that's it then, Farah. Thank you very much.